Okay, well, welcome everyone to our December meeting of the Roosevelt Democratic Club. I'm Nicole Williams, I'm the current president of the club, and so thank you guys so much for joining us this evening. I know it's cold and slick, and there were some snow flurries I heard earlier today. Snow pellets, okay. But thank you for coming. So we always start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. And so, I know Matt, you're sipping your hot cocoa, but do you want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. All right, next is our election for officers. And so the various officers, all of the officers are up for election for 2018. The various positions are president. We have 4 vice president positions, treasurer, corresponding secretary, recording secretary, and 2 sergeant at arms. And so last month, as was reported, the nominating committee did present the slate of candidates from the board. And the slate of candidates for 2018 is for President Nicole Williams, Vice President Conrad Hurley, for Vice President Kate Papey, Joyce Fitzgerald, Daryl Pennington, for Treasurer Austin Henry, Corresponding Secretary Ryan Bradley, Recording Secretary Lisa Lee, and Sergeant at Arms Rosemary Bell and Matt Enzio. And we do allow for nominations to also be made from the floor. And so in addition to those candidates, are there any nominations from the floor? Hearing none, I will accept a motion to accept the candidates as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second by Ryan. Okay. And if all the candidates can stand, just so everyone knows who they are. Okay. All right. And so we have Conrad over here, we have Matt, Austin in the back, Rosemary with the dark green jacket, Ryan recording himself as the corresponding secretary, and myself. Is there a motion to approve by acclamation? Sure.
What position?
Rosemary, Sergeant at Arms. Yes. Okay. I think there was a motion to approve by acclamation. Is there a second? Second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. So congratulations, everyone. This is your new 2018 board for the Roosevelt Club. All right. Hello, Senator.
Hello, how are you?
Good. So we just did our elections for officers, and I was wondering if you would do the honors of swearing us in. I have the oath for you to read and everything.
Delighted to.
Okay, so if all of our new officers can come on up.
Coming from down. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Let me first say these are congratulations. And I thank you for your service to your community and to your neighborhoods and making us a better county. I'm proud to take this honor to swear you in and to administer the oath of office. And so if you would raise your right hand. And if you would repeat after me, I state your names. Do hereby swear. Or affirm. That I will. Faithfully execute. The duties of the office. Of. Repeat your office.
Vice President.
Of the Eleanor and Franklin Roosevelt Democratic Club.
Of the Eleanor Franklin Roosevelt Democratic Club.
That while upholding
That while upholding
the club's constitution
the club's constitution
and bylaws,
and by
I will
laws.
carry out the responsibilities
I will carry out the responsibilities
of my office
of my
to the
office
best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, and I'm sure they're looking forward to your service.
Thanks very much.
Okay. All right, well, Senator Muse is right on time. It's at 7:30 and it's 7:30. So what we're gonna do, we're just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna just read an abbreviated bio of the good senator. And so just as a way of introduction. So Senator Muse was born in Baltimore, Maryland. I'm not gonna say the year, but on April 17th. And then attended Morgan State University where he received his Bachelor's of Arts. Afterwards, he went to the Wesley Theological Seminary where he obtained his Master's in Divinity, and Howard University where he obtained his Doctorate of Ministry. Currently, Senator Muse is the founder and senior pastor of the Ark of Safety Christian Church in Upper Marlboro. He is currently married to the wonderful Pat Lawson Muse, if you ever watch News Channel 4. That is his lovely wife. And Senator Muse has been a member of the Maryland State Senate since January 10th, 2007. He is currently a member of the Judicial Proceedings Committee and served as the Senate Chair of the Joint Committee on Fair Practices and State Personnel Oversight. In addition to serving on a number of different committees while in the State Senate, such as the Joint Committee on Healthcare Delivery and Financing, as well as the Finance Committee, Senator Muse also is a member of the Prince George's County Delegation and served as chair from 2008 to 2009. In addition, he's a member of the Legislative Black Caucus as well as the National Conference of State Legislators. Previously, Senator Muse served in the House of Delegates, also representing District 26 here in Prince George's County, and served in the House of Delegates from 1995 to 1999. Where he was a member of the Ways and Means Committee, the Transportation Subcommittee, as well as numerous other committees. And so without further ado, I want to invite up the state senator from District 26, Senator C. Anthony Muse.
Let me first say good evening. Good evening. And thank you for having me. To get to this, the last place that I was Akokee. So taking the Beltway from Akokee to here, it's like driving from here to New York. It takes forever to do that, but we were determined to be on time. May, it's great to see you here tonight as well. It's good to see you and all of you who are here. Again, I appreciate this opportunity. I did bring some notes with just a few facts and figures. I won't talk a very long time. I do want to say happy holidays to all. This is a good time of the year. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and whatever your holiday you're celebrating the peace. It's good with everything that's going on in the world to just stop and take a deep breath and to release some of the stress and some of the pressure and to say all is well. At least for this time, that's what I would like for us to do. You talked a little bit, and I thank you for that introduction. I started in my early 30s, and so I was elected to the House of Delegates. Went there for 4 years, but prior to that, I served as a state ethics commissioner, representing this area. There's a committee of 5. I represented the area, and it was our responsibility to make sure that there was integrity in politics and that there was honesty in politics. And sometimes we would issue opinions based with our staff, and sometimes it was good. Sometimes we would have to push it on to the prosecutor for further investigation. From there, I went, as I said, to the House of Delegates. I served on the Ways and Means Committee. We're getting an understanding of what the budget is and how the budget works for the state. It was very, very important. After that, as you know, this is my 3rd term serving, as you said, in the Senate. And when you're in the Senate, there's so many things that you learn because there's so many issues that you deal with. We vote on, as you know, and I'm sure you know this from your own senator, you have great senators and great persons here who work on behalf of Greenbelt. But there in the Senate, we sometimes charged to look over 2,000 bills in the course of 90 days. So 90 days, you've got to really buckle in to know what you do, because whatever vote you take, it's either going to help people or it's going to hurt people, and so you do your very best. In these years, I've gotten 300 bills passed into law, so I know pretty well Annapolis. I know how to work and how to operate in Annapolis. A lot of our money, as you know, comes back from Annapolis. We bring over $1 billion back in terms of education. We bring that money back because it's very important: public safety, transportation, infrastructure, environment. When it comes down to, again, what it means to have a multifaceted approach to the entire state, I think that that's the strength that I bring to this race. Each person in it will bring their strength. I think the strength that I bring to it is the strength of having 16 years of experience and knowing what works in government and knowing where we can improve in some areas in government. And so I just wanted to say a couple of things to you, and you can ask me questions, but for me, people ask, why am I running? I think it's important to look at the furtherance of transportation infrastructure, to look at jobs and what does it mean to bring jobs and keep jobs here, so that as our young people are graduating from college, they're not having to leave here to find jobs, they can do it here. I think affordable housing, that is not junk, but affordable housing is very important. You can't price everybody out of the market. I think this county is large enough for everybody, it's big enough for everybody, and we all have a place in this county. So that's important for me. I think transparency in government is very important. It's one thing to know, to think that you have the answers. It's another thing to come and meet with the community and to know what they are saying, because we are the representatives of the community, and it's not our job to come up with all of the answers. It's our job to manage and to know what works, but to get that from you. I think that there are many things, as I look around Greenbelt, that you're doing well, and I want to emulate that throughout the county. In fact, that's what I do. I go throughout the county, I go throughout this county, and I see what's working over here, what's not working over there. And then I try to look at how to bring the best team together so that what works well here. You have one of the greatest schools in this county, right here in Greenbelt. And it's very important for us to look at what makes that work and how is it that we can look across the county, because quite frankly, we have schools that aren't doing so well. We have places where there's much to be desired in terms of the school system and what we do. Now, I will tell you this. My style of leadership is very simple. My style of leadership comes out of who I am, and it comes out of what made me and how I got here today. I will be leaving the Senate, and I've had 16 great years. But you know what? What makes me feel great about that is this. I never thought I'd make it to the Senate maybe in the first place. I came through, the first 10 years of my life was in a domestic violence-filled household, and it was physically violent. My mother left. She left running for her life, and when she left, there were 6 children. There were some who were older, who were on their own. I happened to be the youngest one that she left here, hoping that my grandmother would take me in, but she didn't do that. And so I ended up in 11 foster homes, and in many of those times, leaving foster homes and sleeping on the streets, because I'd rather sleep on the streets than to be in some of the homes in which they placed me. But I was very fortunate. I was very fortunate in that on those streets of Baltimore, there was a church nearby, and the pastor of that church was a pastor who didn't just stay in the church, but after church he was out on the corner cleaning up the corners, making sure that those guys on the corner, or persons who were selling drugs, etc., that either they would come in, he would get them a job, he would try his best to get them into college, but he would tell them, you're not going to sell drugs outside of my church on this corner. He was just that kind of person. And he took me in. He had 8 children of his own. He had 3 additional foster care children into the church parsonage. And at the age of 13, there I was, never having known my biological father at all, and I'm in a stable house for once. And I'm in that stable household, and he taught me. He said to me, it doesn't matter what they said you're going to be, and it doesn't matter where you start, it only matters where you end up. And that became important to me, because I had already been kicked out of 3 school systems, and they had already said that I wasn't the kind, I wasn't able to be educated, teach them a trade, etc. But my dad said, no, you're going to go to school, you're going to go to college. He went to heaven about 12 months ago, but he was the only father I've ever known from age 13 up until now. And the one thing again that he taught me, he did not say if you make it. He said, when you make it, you have to turn around and you have to give back. I operate out of that. I don't do this because I need a job. I don't do this because I need a title. I do this because I've been fortunate enough to get into places where I can learn and where I can bring back what I learned from the state level and make it better here for us. And so sometimes I don't always agree with what we call the machine and whatever that word means and the structure. Sometimes I don't, and sometimes it's good to sit down and have a disagreement. I'll learn some things. I'll learn either I was right or I was wrong. But it's good to be able to sit down and hear and learn what others are saying. And so I'll say forthrightly, education is very important to me. It's very important because to take one who was kicked out of 3 school systems, and I thank God I have a PhD today, that's only because he said to me, you can make it and you can do it, and these things are important for him. They were important for me. I see too many of our children who are failing. I see across this county, it's not all the same. There are too many of our children who are failing. There are too many of our children who are being pushed through. They're being pushed through because we don't want to say, you didn't acquire, you didn't get the information, you didn't make it, you didn't learn, and you got to repeat this grade. We don't like to do that because it means you got to pay for them again. But you know what? You're either going to pay now or you're going to pay later for a long time to come. We've got to get to the point where every child that we're graduating, every student that we're graduating, number one, either they have a diploma that works for them, where they're able to take that diploma, they're able to get into college without having to take 4 or 5 remedial courses and wasting that money, or they have to have some kind of trade. They have to have something that they can use in a skill, because everybody has a skill. Everyone's not going to go to college, right? And so it's important to me, number one, to make sure that we are supporting our teachers, and that our teachers are not just able to teach, but they're able to determine whether this child should graduate or not, or whether this child should be moved to another grade or not. And that teacher is able to do that without having others to say, to coach them along. Not even parents. I'm sorry, I disagree with that. Sometimes parents will say, well, don't fail my child because I want my child to move on. Well, you know what? If you really want to see your child make it, it doesn't matter if they have an extra year that they have to spend in that grade. They have a long life ahead of them, and it's very important that we do that. I voted against the appointed school board. I voted against the appointed school board because, number one, I believe in democracy. I believe that if people are smart enough to vote for a senator and a delegate, then they're smart enough to vote for a school board member. And if that's not the case, then maybe we should have appointed senators and appointed delegates and everything else across the line. I don't think that's so. I think that you get what you pay for and that people will be more involved. No, so I'm going to tell you straight up, I did not vote for that. I believe that there's a better way of sitting at the table. And the one thing that the Laura leader did say, and I read that today, and he said, we needed more time to deal with that issue. It was pushed through the last 2 weeks of session. I wasn't prepared to deal with it, and so I simply voted no on that. I voted no on the casino. The reason I voted no on the casino was because I was convinced after reading the language of the bill that the money was not going to go into the schools as we had promised. And I'll tell you what, there may be some things that you'll agree or disagree with me on, but here's the one thing that when I'm through in a term of any office that I hope you will say about me, and that is, number one, I was upfront, I was honest, and I said what I believed, and I did not just go along to get along. I believe that my bosses are the people and not those who sit at the table and say we are the party bosses and we are the ones in charge of the county. You are the ones who are in charge of the county, and we have to hear from you. We have to know what you're saying. I voted against that because when I read the language of the bill, it suggested to me that the money was going to go into the general fund, and I was not going to have any of my constituents walk up and tell me that I was a liar and that I did not tell them the truth. So I could not vote for that because it wasn't the kind of policy. It had nothing to do with whether or not one wants to gamble or not. It had to do with whether or not you're being honest to the citizens that you're serving. So that was extremely important. That was a vote that I took, and there were others like that. To be honest, there were others like that. I did not agree with having 2 additional council members. I believe that you can't waste money. I believe that sometimes we don't have a money problem, we have a priority problem. And you can't let a few people sit around the table and decide what's going to happen to the money without having a broader view of the needs across the county. There are some things that we do, and we do that in spite of the fact that I have some schools, I have schools with mold, and I have people still sitting, I have kids in trailers. I think we have to prioritize what it is that we're going to do, but you must do that in conjunction with the citizens that you serve. So my style of leadership is, number one, to be able to bring people together, no matter where you are, and look for compromise and look for what is the best way to move forward as you are relating and trying to meet the needs and the concerns of the people that you are serving. Perfect case in point, I got a call that came across my desk and said we were about to lose 700 jobs. It was Safeway. Safeway was about to leave here, and pretty much most had thrown up their hands and said, this is, we can't keep these jobs here. So they called me. We had one other delegate, former delegate, Aisha, great boy, and the two of us were sitting in the room, and they called and they said, you know what, those jobs are leaving. There's nothing we can do to keep them here. I understood both sides of it. I understood that the unions, they wanted to keep those union jobs here. I understood what Safeway was saying. We have a deficit and we aren't quite able to meet the needs. We met in my office for over 3 months. It was around Thanksgiving when they were going to close and move those jobs. But we sit down and we compromise and we look for compromise. And I think that's the leadership style of who you would want as a county executive. At the end of the day, I understood with the deficit problem over here, and I understood the people problem over here, and I was able to go to the governor and get the governor to come up with money. Then I went to the county to get them to work together and to get them to come up with some money, and was able to bridge the gap, and now those jobs are here for 10 additional years. When I'm county executive, we aren't going to lose jobs. We aren't going to lose jobs in Greenbelt. We aren't going to lose jobs here in this county, because I'm going to work with those who are our municipal leaders to know that they have a friend in Upper Marlboro. I know you do now, but I tell you what, nobody's going to beat the fact that want to outdo me at knowing that you will have a friend. I will have a liaison, a cabinet member who is a liaison to all of our municipalities, because there are differences in the way you see land use, in the way that you see education, in the way that you want your community to go. And the least that I can do is know what that is, and to know where we agree and where we disagree, to know what it is and what is the best that will come out of that. But it will never be it's my way or the highway. That's just not my style of leadership. I think that is wrong. I'll close with this. I believe that, again, that affordable housing is something we've got to work on here in our county a little better. I have seniors, and they are very much concerned about what is happening with them at the golden ages of their life. They move to these wonderful high rises, and their rent goes up by 5%, and yet their Social Security goes up by 1%. I put the bill in. I put in the bill that brought back to us the tax rent stabilization, which was a bill that brought back $894,000. It's divvied up and it's given to some of the seniors, maybe $800 a month. $800 a year. Now, that may not sound like much, but from where I come from, where I have seniors who really are literally making decisions between food and medicine, whatever we could do. I wanted to do even more than that, but I couldn't. When it comes down to veterans, we've got homeless veterans. We've got 65,000 veterans who are in our county. And the homeless rate among many of those veterans is higher than it is in other jurisdictions. I think we have to handle that. We have to work with the federal government and others to do that. I think it's absolutely wrong to go and fight for your country and then come home and not have a home to go to. That's wrong. I want to make sure that the services for our veterans and for our seniors, that those services are services that they can be proud of and feel as though we've earned it. I could go on and on, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stop now and say I'm leaving the Senate, and sometimes people say, well, it's kind of a step down to leave the Senate to become the county executive. I don't look at it that way. And the way I believe is that you serve where you believe you can serve best. And you don't serve based on whether it's a step up or a step down. But what have I been prepared to do? And I've been prepared for 16 years to lead this county. I'd like to have the opportunity to do it. I thank you for taking the time to listen to me tonight. God bless you, and God bless our Prince George's County. Thank you for this. Yes, sir.
Senator Muse, thank you for your service as a senator. Thank you for joining us here in Greenbelt tonight. You were talking a little bit about finances, and here in Prince George's County, I know with the budget, the county executive puts forward a budget. County Council works with that. But in the past, there's been a lot of talk about structural deficits. Sometimes, people talk about the trim legislation that's been in place for a while. So I'm just wondering, in terms of taxes and dealing with the deficit, what do you think can be done next 4 years?
Sure. Let me say first and foremost, we had a bill that we got with, and again, I was the only senator to vote against it, but it's because I looked at it, and that was the 15% tax hike. The 15% tax hike was presented in a way that I could not support that. Number one, we need to start doing with the money what we say we're going to do. And when we say that there is an issue, for example, the counter bill to that I put on the table was a bill that said only in the case in which we're not able to meet, for example, with the schools, maintenance of effort. We were not able to meet what we've done last year for the schools. Will we be able to raise taxes to that extent? But not a 15% tax hike. And I also saw that as a way that the legislature was going through a back door to overturn trim without having the people's input. Now, it doesn't matter where you are for or against trim. Here's what we have to make sure that we do. When the people have spoken, we have to listen. But I also believe that if you make the presentation that you need additional funds, and if you have a history of doing with those funds what you have often said you were going to do, for example, the money going into schools from the casino should always be above and beyond the maintenance of effort from the previous year. That's not what's been happening. So that if people don't trust us with the money we do have, they're not likely to give us any more. I believe that moving around and making the presentation from community to community, that this is why we need additional tax dollars, but at the end of the day, the people have to make that decision. All too often, we go to Annapolis and we write laws that will overturn the will of the county once the county is open. Let's take term limits, for example. Believe in term limits, you believe in term limits. I do not think that those two additional, and I voted against that too. I will tell you, I did vote for some things. Just kidding. But I voted against the two additional council members because I looked at the cost. And nobody was screaming, asking for two additional at large. And the reasons that they were giving us was, well, if you represent a district, then you're limited in your view, and you need somebody that can look over the entire county. I said, well, why don't we appoint senators and make them full-time, at-large senators? Because we all represent our districts. And why don't you do it with delegates while you're at it? Why not just do it with every elected official? No, you're elected to deal with that issue. No one asked for that. It was a cost, and it was not about better service. It was about whose job we could save and who it is that may not run against us if we give them a place to go. I raised the question on the Senate floor. I said, when did we become an employment agency? That's not our job. My point, Mr. Mayor, is this. If people have a trust in what we're doing, and if we present it, they may go along with us. But once they have spoken, then you have to operate within the confines, and I will, as a county executive, even if I'm promoting something else, I've got to do it until the people have said, I buy into that, and I understand that, and I want to do that. Until then, that's not the route that we should have gone. I'm going to go here and here. Yes, sir.
A couple of weeks ago, there was a really moving ceremony in support of the Purple Line Coalition and for the communities that would be affected by the construction of the Purple Line stops, that we not have a situation like the U Street corridor, where you can no longer identify the folks that really made that neighborhood. This ties in with your comment about affordability. And when I was on the city council here in Greenbelt, one of the ideas that I thought was a very good idea was to look at what Montgomery County had done in terms of the multiple dwelling units. What do you see as the method to, not only in terms of the Purple Line stops, but affordability on a broader base? What are the types of things that you would like to put into effect so that affordability actually is something that is part of Prince George's County?
I think first and foremost, it would be my job to sit down and to set the tone for what is development in our county. To not allow developers to dictate to me what development may be based on their profit margin. But to understand that just as what is happening in Washington, D.C., where people are being pushed out, so to speak, I don't think that's the route we want to go. Developers and development in our county, and when developers come, they will understand that, number one, we're going to preserve our neighborhoods. There's enough space and there is enough land. Everybody cannot afford a $500,000 house, but an affordable house need not be junk. To understand that the character of that neighborhood is very important, to sit with persons in that neighborhood, to make developers sit there and to not come up with a plan that you will hear about once we're breaking ground for it, so to speak. And to also realize, again, that when they're putting up these communities, they're going to make money no matter what. We're not driving people out to bring people in. This county is big enough for the rich, for the poor. It's diverse enough, and I love the diversity of this county. We will maintain that. We will maintain our neighborhoods. You want to put up the housing, great, you can do it, because we do need the revenue. Let me say this, we do need the revenue. We also need our citizens. And we need a place where people can finally say, this is home. Yes, we can build. Yes, we can have, and Montgomery County, as you just said, is a good example. I am not above looking at where something is working best and putting the brightest and the best minds around me. Not yes people that will let me fall in a ditch and then say goodbye as I'm falling down. But people who will say, no, this county executive, this is not the way. You may not want to go this route. Let's take a look at over here and see what works. But I think that's a perfect example of what you brought. I want development that will not drive people out. I want development where those who are here feel comfortable that this will still be their home, and I want to attract others to come to our county as well. That will be at least the beginning of my approach and the tone that I want to set should I be elected as county executive in my administration. Yes, sir.
More of a comment, answer your question. This is like a lifelong Prince George and resident here in Greenbelt. I just want to thank you for running. And, you know, definitely, everything that you're saying, you know, I appreciate you running. And I think you do shit like yours and from all of us. I just want to make that comment.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that very much. It's very encouraging, and I thank you for that. Yes, sir.
Your life story certainly merits attention, and you can all be grateful that you met that pastor on the streets of Baltimore when you did. In reading the literature, the only piece of literature from you for your office that I've seen thus far, I see one specific thing that you're calling for Prince George's County to bring to the county, and that's a cancer treatment facility. We actually have facilities in the county. They're affiliated with, say, Doctor's Hospital nearby or other things, but I presume you're talking about a larger facility that might be associated with a new hospital that we will be seeing at some point. And that's a specific thing that you'd like to do. I certainly agree that we ought to have a facility that's not primarily operated for the benefit of the doctors who own the facility, but a public facility. Beyond that, can you be specific about other plans, other change you'd like to see in the county?
In terms of healthcare?
No, in terms of anything specific, and I'm thinking because of your opening remarks.
Sure, I got you.
8 years ago, we heard one of the candidates for executive say that he was opposed to casino gambling, and of course, within 4 years, he changed his mind. And 8 years ago, we heard that same candidate for executive say that he was in support of a school board, elected school board, and not appointed school board. And then within his first term, we saw that change as well. it would be helpful to me as a voter, and I'm confused as to whether it should be you or Ms. Also Brooks, or one or two others.
Right.
There are two others, Donna, obviously, and this young man who I've met just once. I think he's a young man.
Yeah,
He seems like he's a young man. I don't know that against him. But it would be helpful to me, as just one voter, to know more specifically what change you'd like to try and bring about in the county.
Thank you very much for asking that. The one that we talked about.
Oh, I'm sorry, but just because you mentioned it and then I mentioned it, I'd be interested in knowing if you've announced publicly your support for any of the announced candidates for governor.
I'm not prepared to do that in terms of announcing candidates for governor. I'm so busy trying to get myself elected. And I know at some point that will come into play. I haven't heard all their platforms, and quite frankly, some of them I do not know.
Well, we do know, you and I and others know, that one of them said 8 years ago that he was opposed to casino gambling and for an elected school board.
That's correct. And
I don't know if he's still among the potential candidates for you to determine you'd be supportive of.
Let me try to answer it this way. Number one, let me make it personal. I've only served the southern part of the county. Anyone that you will talk to in the areas where I've served will tell you this. My word is my word. I've never come out to say one thing and have done something else. Even when I had to take the hits from the press and anyone else, I'd rather take the hit, maintain integrity, because integrity is of utmost importance. If I say something today and I come across new information and I decide maybe that's not the route to go, it's incumbent upon me to come and tell you and to discuss that with you. I think that's important. When we look at the hospital, you asked me what specifics, and then I'll come back to the material candidate questions. But you asked me which specifics and what would I like to see done. One, I would like to see our transportation infrastructure improved greatly. We do not have the kind of bus service and transportation service and infrastructure that really benefits from one area to the next. That's very important for me. The reason we brought up the Cancer Center was because of some of the concerns that I had gotten as a result of a bill that I put in that was environmental, but I believe that whatever we do we must be environmentally friendly. But when I looked at the cancer rate here in Prince George's County, I then went up to Fort Detrick and I looked at some situations that I was called upon to look at there, and I found out that around this particular Fort Detrick that the cancer rate was extremely high. And when I came back here and I looked at some of the places that we were putting up, and there were no guidelines in place so that one could determine, is this a possible cancer cluster? Not to drive someone out of business, but to put in place what is necessary to clean up and to make sure that our air and our water and our soil would not be in jeopardy, thus jeopardizing the lives and health of people. From there, we were looking at that time, one of the hospitals was closing, at Fort Washington Hospital in my area. I want to make sure that everything that we do is not just going into Prince George's Hospital Center. I think that's going to be taken care of as well, but we have to look at healthcare across the entire county. We have to not only look at healthcare across the entire county, but what will bring in the resources necessary, because there are a number of indigent persons who require healthcare as well. You've got to pay for that. I sat with many of the hospital administrators, and I did sit with someone last week who wanted to explore that cancer research center. It's good for jobs, it's good for health, it's good for, so they thought good for their hospital and campuses. When it will be, we're not exactly sure. But for us to have a healthcare infrastructure so that in no part of our county are people suffering from a lack of accessibility to health care. That's a part of what, that's important to me. Number two, we have one of the largest jails located here. We have people going in, coming out, going in, going out here in Upper Marlboro. It's important to me that we understand we can't take care of folks forever. So what does a returning citizen, what support, what do we do so that we're making sure that that youngsters who get in trouble? I wrote the expungement legislation. The expungement legislation was my legislation. I think many people have messed up in their older years and they're still in their younger years and they're still paying for it. I want to see how we can have a model of what really is rehabilitation? What really is cutting down on mass incarceration? What are alternatives? That's very important for me. When we talk again about development, we have many of, and we say this all the time, right? We've been talking about that ever since I've been running for office. We're going to have great development around all these metro stations. Well, let's put the plan on the table. And let's really do it, because we do need the revenue, we need the resources. And so my vision is that we have many more of these done, and that we not allow it to be hindered because there are just a few developers making the decisions who want to have all of the business, but they can't do it. Open it up and have this county work in terms of that kind of infrastructure. I envision us moving from number 23 of the least performing school systems across the board in the entire county, where we have been since 1995. When I got elected in 1995, we were, according to their standards, one of the least performing systems out of the 24 jurisdictions. And I don't think that the appointed, anointed, or nothing school board is going to change that. It's got to be some systemic changes that we have to determine as a community. And I do have ideas on that. I would want to push that. But I want to see us move up. I want to see us move up, and I want to work not with people at the table feeling as if one is the enemy of the other, because we all have the same common goal. How are we going to make our school system work? So I want to be committed to that. I want to be committed, as I said, to making the hospital work. I want to be committed to healthcare across the county. I see that as being very important. But also, when I look at a place like Lynn Hill condominiums, I don't want to see people pushed out of their homes for developers to grab a building and then develop it and not give anything back to the people who are there. So if I'm guilty, sometimes if there's anything that sometimes take people off of me, it has been because my yes is yes, my no is no, and I'm not going to be bought off or given something, just to get along. Those are some of the visions that I have felt. You want to? Oh, and I didn't answer your other question, did I? I'll simply say I've not made a decision. and it'll be a while before I make a decision, because I don't want to be in the habit of putting. I'm here to lift myself up, and not to put anybody down. I don't think I can put anyone down and lift myself up. I'm here to say to you, here's the reason I want you to vote for me for county executive. Whoever the governor is, know this, I'm going to work with him. Whoever the governor, he or she is, I'm going to work with them, and I've managed to work with everyone across the aisle. It doesn't matter to me if you're a Republican or a Democrat. We have got to work together to make things work. And at times I've had to go across the Republicans to get the votes for my bills and get my 300 bills passed. Then I was able to do that. And I will always work that way. But you will never, my prayer is you will never say, this guy is not telling the truth. I'll be truthful, I'll be transparent, and I'll do what needs to be done so that we don't have people so despondent about government and positions. I hope I answered that without. Yes.
Well, I definitely like how you said about the priorities, and I like how you said that the school system is very important, and I'm with it. I think that investing in the children, stocking up the children, helping the kids at such a young age is very valuable. And I've seen a system that works in Washington, D.C. personally, where kids go to school all day long at 3 years old. They call it pre-K 3, all day long, pre-K 4. And in PG County, children go to pre-K half a day. And I hear you, and I think that PG County is in a positive when it comes to economy and when it comes to infrastructure. We are moving at an amazing pace. But we're building new hospitals, and we're not really investing in the children. And I got 3 kids, so it's just like kind of special to me. And I feel like you and I, when it comes to the priorities, I feel that how can you, because I've always heard we don't have enough money, and when you say something about priorities, how would you be able to help the children? And because if you just help out the children, it will help out everything. And I just want, and I get excited when you say that you're going to focus on the priorities, and I just want you to talk about that.
I definitely want to focus on children's schools. one of the first bills that I passed when I was first elected in 1995, some students yelled at me, was the school uniform bill. Well, it wasn't popular, nobody wanted to deal with that. I then put in a bill that would stop us from putting so much emphasis on testing, when the very testing that was being done, we had long-term substitute teachers in the schools who weren't able to teach the subject matter. But no matter what, we want to test the children in these areas. You cannot have a cookie-cutter approach to education, but yet our teachers need the backup aids and all else that they need. And we need parental involvement. I know that, I don't know the answer to that one yet. We'll talk about that. You're either going to be a good parent or you're not. You can't legislate that. But during the time that those children are in our hours, then we've got to be able to meet them where they are. We've got to have creative educational approaches that will work. One school will do it for one, for one group. Whether it's that, and another school will deal with another issue. Let me make it plain. We always, ever since I've been elected, we've been saying we want smaller classroom sizes, and we all know that works, right? But then when the population gets smaller, we close the school, give the building away, and then we send those kids, and we have overcrowding in another school. I have what I believe is one of the best schools in my district that dealt with kids who are developmentally challenged, autism, etc. And they were doing a good job. I look at our county, and a lot of our schools aren't able to handle that, and we're still busing kids to Baltimore City and Montgomery County and other places. I thought that would have been the perfect place to say, before we shut this school down, why not make this the hub so that parents can also get the backup that they need and the support that they need, so that together you've got a community that's dealing with not bureaucracy, but actually dealing with the issues of those children. That's what I mean when I say there may be a school over here that will deal with the 10% of those who are the most disrupted. There's some kids who really shouldn't be in our classrooms, but we can still educate them. We just closed a great military academy. Nobody said why we were closing. And well, they did. They said we were saving $2 million. I said, I can save you $2 million. Number one, don't y'all yell at me, okay? I said, I can save you $2 million. Number one, maybe we wait a few years before we move the county administration building and pay all that money in a new county administration building and focus that money on schools. Hopefully the revenue will go up, and then we can get a county administration building. I didn't see anything wrong with the one in Upper Marlboro. That's just me. When I say priorities, I want the dollars to go into schools and not jobs for friends. And I'm not suggesting that that's what's happening. I'm suggesting that we can do away with some of the six-figure salaries without really a job description and no evaluation to see how it's been effective, and relative to our schools moving up the ladder in terms of education. We got to invest more into our kids. And I don't just want to say it. I want to put the best minds around us to get it done. I think you had a question. Yes, sir. And then about 3 minutes, I'm going to have to leave because I'm doing up a Marlboro, and I see when my person stands up and does this to me. And they're so cool. They're so cool about it, right? They think, they just walk by and go. You had a question?
Yes, this is about, well, in Montgomery County and Howard County, they had public financing. What's your position?
My position on public financing is,
and this was on, what is your position of the MAG line that the governor is backdoored you and trying to put in position?
Sure.
Those are those two.
Well, number one, I was first stand. I got a call from Senator Peters and went up there and met with some of the people there. In fact, there was about 300 persons there and made this determination. I thought it was just kind of crazy. They had a train that was going to come through our county and wasn't even going to stop here and maybe take 2,700 homes. No way would that be even a discussion for me without having the input. And that was the other thing. The neighbors had not even been notified. And this was well on the way. And I think it's incumbent on my office as county executive to know what's happening in my county and to be able to present that to you first. And let you decide what you want to do. And then the homes that they were taking, they were looking at taking them at the assessed value. Now we don't know, you can't buy a new house that way. I'm not going to allow anybody, I'm not going to do anything just for the sake of doing it. And we've got to weigh the pros and the cons. And when you're talking about 2,700 homes at that point, and I know that they've made concessions since then, I think that's a leadership style and that's a failure of government to let it get that far. And everybody's up in arms and everyone's in a crisis. When it comes to public financing, I have a mixed approach to that. One is, for me, if we just had all this money that we could afford to put there, that would be a great thing. If all of us were going to be on the same level playing field, that would be great. I have other priorities that I want to deal with first. I believe in public financing. I think that that's a good way to go. But I think, again, that you're going to pay for it. Somebody's going to pay for it, right? And so I believe that that's got to be worked on a little bit more. And that's why I'm with that right now. I understand the concept. I think that it worked. You know, we have candidates right now who are choosing that. There's some gubernatorial candidates who are running right now who are choosing that. I want to see how it works. I want to see what that means. I also want to look at the bottom line. And if I've got to make a decision between making sure that our homeless rate and our veterans getting off the street, or our kids having a better chance at education, and I only have one pot of money, I'd rather use it there. I'd rather for us to look for ways for the federal government and other agencies to look at how we could do on a larger scale public financing. As I see it working now, it's not equitable. It's not across the board. It doesn't work across the board because as long as somebody else is free to raise $20 million and you can only raise $2 million, I'm not sure that that's the route we want to go. A lot of kinks that need to be worked out there. Yes, sir.
So, first I want to say thank you for coming out. I also want to say I appreciate your idea about having a liaison for municipal officials. I think that would be great in terms of being able to partner with municipal and the county and making sure that the relationship between the counties and the cities are very strong. The second thing I wanted to say or ask about actually was the schools. I know you mentioned that you support going back to an elected school board, but as you know, there are many other of your colleagues who would be responsible for voting on a state bill related to that who don't have that position. So my question would be, absent those votes and absent that taking place, what would be your approach specifically to the current superintendent of the school system? Do you think that the current county executive should fire Kevin Maxwell given the scandals related to the abuse and the grading? And then my last thing is I know you mentioned to my good friend Bill that you're here to build yourself up, not necessarily to put anybody else down, but at the end of the day, on whatever, what is it, June next year?
That's right.
You know, folks have to vote for one person for county executive, and I can say, so far, it looks like, you know, the anti-establishment for the people lane has been occupied by a few people, among those, you and Donna Edwards. And so my question would be, what do you think are the biggest differences between you and her? I mean, given that clearly both of you guys have taken that angle. So anyway,
That's it. Let me go back. Let me go back to your first question dealt with.
So the first one wasn't a question so much as I was just saying I appreciate the municipal, the desire to reach out to municipal. But the thing was Kevin Maxwell and then Donna Edwards.
I think in terms of Dr. Maxwell, yes, I did call for his resignation, and that had to do more with accountability from where I sit in my district, accountability, accessibility, and understanding that we are all public servants. And this has been my experience, although not everyone, and that's what I'm finding out. When you're closing schools in my district and I have to be accountable to parents, I would at least expect somebody to come and tell me why and what you're doing. After that happened a number of times, I said, it's out of leadership. I love him as a person, great person, But a style of leadership is not the style of leadership that I believe that we needed for this time in our county, when people are already skeptical about our school system and what we're doing. Relative to, you said myself and Donna, here's what I believe are some of the biggest differences. Number one, I've taken 10,000 votes on what happens in Prince George's County and in our state. I know that she's voted on the national level, but taking 10,000 votes over the past 16 years has enabled me to get a great sense of where our county is and what the needs of our counties are and what the weaknesses of our county will be. The other difference is, for every issue that you will bring up, I will be able to say, I have done this, and you can judge me by what I have done. But I don't think any other candidate in the race can say that. I don't think any other candidate in the race can say, I've dealt with the school board. Relative to Prince George's County, I've dealt with the school board. I've dealt with transportation infrastructure. I've dealt with minority and small business contracting. I've dealt with health care. I've dealt with all of these issues in our county and know them firsthand. Thirdly, a lot of what we do will deal with how we are able to get along and get around and know our way around Annapolis. And while it is true that there are some that we have not agreed with on every issue, I've maintained the posture that I've not been arrogant about it. It's just a matter of opinion. But I've been able to work with everyone in Annapolis. You have to know your way around Annapolis, because a lot of our funding and money will come from Annapolis. So I think in terms of experience, in terms of whether it's budgetary or otherwise for this county, and in terms of all the local issues, I have a 16-year history of dealing with all of our former county executives and governors, be they Democrat or Republican. I don't really, for me, what matters is I need the resources that I need to make my county work. And I'm not going to fight you just for the sake of fighting you. I want to know where we can agree and disagree and what that means for our county. I think those are some of the major differences between us. Again, I want to thank you all so much. I got to go back down the Beltway. I got to go back down the Beltway. I'm doing up in Marlboro in about 10 minutes. And so we're calling to let them know that I'll be later getting there. I enjoyed being with you. I know that I was limited in what I could say and what I could express, but I'd be more than glad one-on-one with the group at any time to sit down and further iron out the details of what I've given as a general vision. And mostly I want you to know me and my style of leadership and the person that I am. And I would appreciate, again, this time to dialogue and to look further and say, here, when I have some time, here's exactly what I want to do in terms of Laura, in terms of Louie, and what I've gotten from them, and be able to answer that. Thank you so very much. Have a blessed holiday. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you so much. I think that was wonderful. It's always great to have people who we don't normally see on a regular basis. And Senator Muse was gracious to come all the way up from Akki to join us this evening. And so we really do appreciate that. Okay, let's see if there's anything else left for us to do. Talked about the Annapolis. And so everyone's going to Annapolis on the 15th, right? Okay. Make sure, the one thing I think I might have forgotten to mention, there are some postcards on the table with the information. You need to make sure that you do RSVP to Delegate Gaines to let her know that you will be attending, even if you pay your $10 today to get on the bus. In addition to paying your $10 for the bus, you do still need to email her to RSVP. So the $10 is for the bus, but we need to RSVP for the food. Okay. So that's pretty much sums up our agenda for the evening, unless anyone has any announcements or anything else for the good of the order. Ryan?
Yes, we're planning, right now we're planning on creating our YouTube channel for the Eleanor and Roosevelt Club. It still needs the final touches and cosmetics, but we're working on it.
Yes, so once that's up and running, we will have a link to the YouTube channel. So Ryan has been, over the last couple of meetings, recording the meetings. And so some of those are already up, and we'll be getting more of those up on the YouTube channel for people to view. And we will have a link on our website to that, as well as on our Facebook page. So that'll be awesome. Bill and then Conrad.
I don't have an announcement, I have a question.
Okay.
There's plenty of time between now and June, and I know in another forum recently it was discussed that this club might associate with other clubs to have a forum for the various candidates for governor. I think it would be helpful to invite Senator Muse back along with Ms. Olson Brooks and then for the first time Donna and this young man. I don't know his name.
Paul Montero is the other gentleman we're looking at.
But rather than just give them as little time as they want to expend talking to us, have more time where we can engage them, all of them together over, not necessarily a debate, but an opportunity for them all to be able to speak to what the other ones are saying, as well as us asking more questions. So I don't know, I would hope the club, maybe in conjunction with other clubs in the county, provide that opportunity. Thank you very much.
Wow, the board will definitely think about that and consider it. Conrad?
Just wanted to thank Greenbelt Access Television, Alan and Phoebe for being here. They covered the meeting that we had Angela Alsterbrook. And also just for information for our gate crew that when's our meeting with Donna Edwards?
That's January.
But it's January. It's going to be the third Friday or
No, it's on a Sunday.
It's Sunday.
I don't remember the exact.
Anyway, we'll make a point.
Yeah.
We'll make a point of getting in touch with Greenbelt Access TV about the next meeting that we have with Donna Edwards, and also Greenbelt Access TV has been at the Martin Luther King programs, I guess at least 5, 6, 7 years in a row. So just a brief way of saying thank you.
Yes, thank you.
And watch the website, all this will be on the website.
Yes, and we will have all this information on the website for our next meeting, which will be in January. It's on a Sunday. I just forget the exact date right now off the top of my head. But do stay tuned for that. And are there any other announcements? Yeah. No. Keith? Okay.
I want to say,
Yes.
nasty weather, congratulations on you, we're all here.
Yes, we braved the weather. Yes, definitely. Okay. Well, if there's nothing else, we do have some wonderful treats. I know Keith brought some brownies that smell delicious, and there's some cake in the back and other goodies. So definitely feel free to hang around a little bit, get something to eat if you haven't gotten anything to eat. And happy holidays to everyone. And I guess our next convening will be on the 15th of January. All right, thank you.
I forgot you could say